everybody, my name is Mars, you can call me MG if you'd like, and today I have my April TBR. A little bit of a disclaimer, I am filming this 3 weeks before you're going to see it, quite early, but I'm just so excited for everything happening in April that I have to film this. I have to figure out my TBR now so I can anticipate it. Yes, I still have like 6 books left on my March TBR, and I am still excited for those, but like, I can be excited for a lot of books, it's fine. But in April, we have the Magical Readathon happening, we've got another round of Vox Machina-thon happening, the book club picks for the 2 book clubs that I'm in are super exciting to me, so I'm just in such a great mood with regards to reading plans that I am going to ride that high and figure out my TBR for April. So there are 3 things that I do in order to figure out my TBR for the month. This time around there are 5 because of readathons happening, but that's fine, we will get to those later. The first thing that we're going to do is pick out my 25 and 2025 priority reads. So I've got this jar that has all of the different books and series that I wanted to prioritize in 2025. And we're going to pick 2 of them to focus on in the month of April. Now, there are a couple of names of books in here that if I pull them, I will just put them to the side and pick something else because I have plans for them in the future. So if I pull Ninth House, Beauty Queens, or The Outsiders, we will just ignore those for now because I'm not going to get to them just yet. So we will shake this up and pull our first little slip of paper. Might have made these way too tiny. They're kind of hard to grab. Ooh, we got one. So the first one I will be reading is, A Lesson in Vengeance, which is one of my 5 Dark Academia books that I wanted to read, so very exciting. And then for our second one, we'll shake it up a little bit more, and then root around for one that feels right. Go with this one. And it is, Frenchman's Creek, which is a classic. It's by Daphne du Maurier, and it's one of my physical TBR books. So I just have that on my TBR card over there. All right, I can make those work. Like I said, I am in 2 different book clubs, and I'm so excited for the books we're going to be reading. The first book club that I'm in is the Nostalgia Train book club, and the April pick is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is going to be a reread for me. I read this back in September, so like literally 6 months ago. Probably don't need to reread it, but I did really, really enjoy it, and reading it again with my friends is going to be exciting, and then I can also continue on with the series, as this is actually one of the series that I wanted to continue on with in 2025, so just a little bit of a refresher. I've read so many books in the last 6 months, I might have lost some of the details on this, so I am very excited to be rereading this. The other book club that I'm in is the Bujo Buddies book club, and we actually have not fully decided on the book. There are 2 options that are currently up for a poll that will be closing out within the next couple of days. And I'm just so excited for both of them. If I can, I will read both because they sound so interesting. So the first option is Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris, and the other option is Diavola by Jennifer Thorne, I think might be her last name. I don't know. They're both dark, horror, gothic-y type books, and they sound amazing. So whichever one wins, I am going to be so here for it, and I'll try to read the runner-up as well. And finally, we have my TBR game to pick out some books for me to read in the month. So I have this deck of cards right here. This is the Adventurer's Tarot by Weirdworks. It's not a tarot deck, it's an oracle deck. It's just called the Adventurer's Tarot. But I pick 5 cards every month, and each card has a prompt assigned to it. I pick a book to fulfill the prompt. Y'all get it. You guys understand how this goes. So I'm going to pick 5 cards, but first we will split it here, sure, just to show you that I'm not putting specific cards on top. It truly is random. I also did give it a big shuffle beforehand. Yeah, I think those are all my disclaimers. So our first card is, the Cleric. I love clerics. They're one of the main D&D classes that I play. This is D&D inspired, I should say. So there's that. But the second card is also the cleric. So there are two types of cards in this deck. There are the what I call class cards, like the cleric, where there are like two, but with a slight variation in the artwork, like the coloring. And for these cards, there are two different options of prompt, and normally I would choose one to fulfill, and then the next time I pull the card, I would fulfill the other one. But since I've just pulled these back to back, I will do both prompts, I guess. That's truly wild. Out of all of the cards, I happen to pull these back to back. Crazy. Yeah, the other types of cards are more like enemy cards, and there's like a set of them. So like there's the dragon, the 2 of dragons, 3 of dragons, 4 of dragons. There's the fae, the 2 of fae, 3 of fae, 4 of fae, etc., etc. So those ones just have one prompt per card. Anyway, wow, the same class card back to back. Wild. So, I have 3 more cards to pull. We have the 2 of elementals. Then we have the 2 of constructs, another 2. Interesting. And the last card for April is the 2 of plants. Wow. What are the odds? This has been a very strange series of cards to pull, but I do have to do one more thing before I pick out all of my books, and that is spin a color wheel, because that's one of the prompts I have to fulfill for the Magical Readathon, so we're going to cut to me doing that. So here we have the color wheel, and we're just gonna click spin and see what color it gives us. We have red. Okay, I should very easily be able to find a book with red on the cover. Okay, friends, I am back. It didn't take me too long to figure out books to fit all of these prompts. There was one prompt in particular that gave me a little bit of trouble, but I figured it out, and I'm very happy with the book that I picked out for that. I have a huge stack of books to show you. There is going to be a lot of overlap between the different categories, but that's fine. I don't care about doing that as long as like readathon prompts and card prompts and everything, like each category doesn't have overlap within itself, if that makes sense. But just a little bit of a recap of the stuff we've already talked about. For my 25 and 2025 priorities, I will be reading A Lesson in Vengeance and also Frenchman's Creek by Daphne du Maurier. I think this is about like pirates or something. An electrifying tale of love and scandal on the high seas, so that's exciting. And then for book clubs, I will be reading An Ember in the Ashes and also either Strange Beasts or Diabola. Next up, we have my 5 card pulls. So I first pulled the Cleric, and the first prompt for the Cleric is a book by my favorite author, and I have quite a few favorite authors that I could have fit in here, but I have decided to go with Rick Riordan because I have just recently read, what is it called? The Chalice of the Gods, and so I'm going to move on to the sequel, which is Wrath of the Triple Goddess, and I could not be more excited. Then I pulled the other Cleric card, and the second prompt for the Cleric is a beautiful book, and the book that I picked for this could have also counted for favorite author, but I put it here, and that is, if I can pick it up off the stack, The Color of Revenge by Cornelia Funk. This is a sequel to the Inkheart trilogy, or Ink World, I guess is what it's called. But it takes place 5 years after the conclusion of Ink Death, and it follows Orpheus, who is an antagonist from the series. And this cover is so beautiful. I love all of the different colors. It's so vibrant, but yeah, I'm so excited to read this. I reread the Inkheart, Inkspell, Ink Death, like all 3 of them, last year in like the fall, winter time-ish to refresh myself on what happens, so I am primed and ready to read this. After that, I pulled the 2 of Elementals, and the prompt for this is air on the cover or in the title, which is a difficult prompt, but I fudged it anyway to make it easier. And the book that I'm going with is The Pairing, because pairing has air in it. It's air in the title. I think it counts, and since this is my game, that's all that matters. I got this out of a little free library very recently, and it's got like sprayed edges with a quote that says some things taste better together, and then it's got like different travel type icons on the top and bottom. I've heard mixed things about this book. I know some people really love it, some people really don't. I've only read one Casey McQuiston book before, and that was One Last Stop, and I loved it, so I am excited to give this one a shot, and hopefully I'm in the camp that loves it, but that is that prompt fulfilled. Then I pulled the Two of Constructs. This is the card that gave me so much trouble because the prompt is to read a book that was published between 2000 and 2009. Almost all of the books on my list so far, like every other prompt that I've fulfilled for both my card pulls and my readathons, have been published since the year 2020, with some exceptions like Frenchman's Creek is from the 1900s. I don't actually know what year that came out, but like it's an older book, but everything else is so recent. So I had to dig into all of my series. That is how I fulfilled this. I went to my series tracker and just looked up the next book in a bunch of series that I'm reading to find one that came out between 2000 and 2009. And the book that I'm going with is Shadow Kiss by Rochelle Mead, which is the next book in the Vampire Academy series that I have to read, which I have read the entire series before, but I'm rereading it because it's just a silly, fun time, and I'm very excited to be picking this up. Finally, the last card I pulled was the Two of Plants, and this is a book set in or by an author from Europe or Australia, and for that I'm going with Frenchman's Creek, because Daphne du Maurier is in fact English, and England is in Europe, so very easy to fit that in there. Now to talk about readathons. So the first readathon that I'll be discussing is the Magical Readathon, hosted by G over at Book Roast. I'm so excited for this. It's my favorite readathon hosted every year, and I'm continuing on with my Calling of Moon Warden, which I'm pretty sure I've been doing since the beginning of this revamped version of the Magical Readathon, which means this would be my 4th year doing it, which would make it my final year because there's only 4 levels for each calling. So a little bit bittersweet, but I'm still very excited. These prompts were very interesting, so let's talk about them. The first class that I have to fulfill is Elemental Studies, and the prompt for that is a book with fruit on the cover. And I have gone with The Pairing because if you look at their shirts, there's a whole bunch of different icons, like there's the Colosseum and the Leaning Tower of Pisa and a glass of wine, and then down here there's a little bundle of grapes. That's a fruit on the cover, so I'm really glad that I actually had something to fulfill this, because I looked up books with fruit on the cover, and all of the lists that I found, none of them had any books that I either owned or was interested in, so I'm glad that I looked that one up, or looked at this, and that it worked, because that was unexpected. Then I have the astronomy prompt, and this is why I spun that color wheel earlier, and the color I got, as you saw, was red, and so I'll be reading An Ember in the Ashes, because this is a very red cover, so fits in real nicely. Then for Art of Illusion, I have to read a book that I had already planned on reading in the month, and so I will be putting whatever the Bujo Buddies book club pick ends up being in this slot, so either Strange Beasts or Diavola. Either one would work if it ends up being picked, so fits in real neat. Then for Restoration, I have to pick a book that has at least a 4-star rating on Goodreads, and this one gave me a little bit of trouble because a couple of the books that I originally looked at for it had 3.8, 3.9. One of them had a 3.97, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You couldn't get a 4-point rating? It's fine. The book that I will be reading in this category, this prompt, I should say, is The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 4th and final book in the Wax and Wane series, which is the second era of Mistborn. I'm so excited, you guys. I absolutely adored The Alloy of Law and Shadows of Self. And then, I guess this is a spoiler for my wrap up, but the third book, The Bands of Mourning, I still loved. It was just like half a notch below the first two books for me, but then the like last couple of chapters really like ramped it back up for me. So this entire series has been absolutely fantastic so far, and I'm excited to finish it out. And this has a 4.48 rating on Goodreads, so definitely higher than a 4. And then finally, for the last prompt, I have to do spells and incantations, and it is a word from the last book that I read in the new book's title. So G in her announcement says like you could use the book that you are reading when you make your TBR, but she like intended for it to be whatever book you're reading at the time of watching her announcement video, which I mean is the same book for me because I immediately made my TBR after watching that video. But the book that I'm currently reading, I should have put the dust jacket back on it, but it is Vox Machina Stories Untold. And when she said this prompt, I was like, damn, I'm not gonna be able to find a book because what book is going to have any of those words in it? Then I looked at my shelves and I found a nonfiction book that I've had for a couple of months now. I think I thrifted it in like the fall, maybe? I don't remember. But it is called Atomic Women, and then the subtitle is The Untold Stories of the Scientists Who Helped Create the Nuclear Bomb. So we go from stories untold to untold stories. It couldn't be more perfect. So this is a nonfiction book, like I said, about the women who helped create the atomic bomb and the like moral implications of that, but also the struggles of being a woman in a woman, women, either way, in a scientific field during that time period. So I have a feeling it's going to be a very interesting read. But that is the last book for my Magical Readathon TBR. And finally, the last little snippet of a TBR that I'll be talking about is for my own readathon, the next round of Vox Machina-thon, because Critical Role is putting out another book, and this book is a collection of children's stories, and there are 3 in the collection, so there are 3 different prompts, one for each. I'll link my announcement video down below for you guys, which I haven't filmed yet, because like I said, I'm filming this video way in advance, but it will already be up by the time this video comes out. Anyway, I apologize in advance for my pronunciations of the children's story names because they are all German and I don't speak German, but I will do my best. So the first one is Der Katzenprinz, which is also the name of the collection. That's like the focal point of it. But the prompt is a book that would comfort you in a time of illness or ailment, and I'm going with The Color of Revenge because Cornelia Funk's writing to me is just so comforting and it like feels almost like home. Like the Ink World series and her other series, Reckless and all those books, like I've been reading them since I was a child. They have such a special place in my heart, and so this definitely would be a comforting read for me. Then we have Die Waldhexe, maybe. If you speak German, feel free to correct my pronunciation in the comments. But the prompt for this is a body part on the cover or in the title, but not a full body. It has to just be a body part. And for that, I've got the very thick book of A Declaration on the Rights of Magicians. And if you look up here, it's got 2 hands and an eyeball. Those are body parts. Now, she's very chunky. This is, if I skip past the preview of book 2, that's the acknowledgements. 531, which actually isn't bad. It looks a lot thicker than 531 pages, but whatever. Ooh, the sun is coming out in full force. I should wrap this up, but yes, this is the second book that I'll be reading for this next round of Vox Machina-thon. Finally, we have Himmelschloss, maybe, but the prompt for this is a book about losing or finding something, and I will be reading Wrath of the Triple Goddess, which, if you read the little blurb, It talks about Percy Jackson doing quests for gods, as he always does, and he is doing a quest for Hecate? Hecate? I don't actually know how to pronounce that, but he's house sitting for her and watching her pets, and then they end up escaping, the pets, and it says the three friends have to find Hecate's pets and somehow restore the house all before Hecate gets back. It's about finding something, so I am fitting that in right there. So, for the month of April, we have these 7 books, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 books that I'm going to put down because they are very, very heavy. Plus, we have The Lost Metal, Shadow Kiss, and whichever of those 2 books wins the poll for the Bujo Buddies book club, although I would like to read both of them. So 10 books total. That's not bad. I am so excited for my reading in April. Like, truly, all of these books are so intriguing to me, and I can't wait to crack them open and get into the story. But we have now come to the end of this video. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone.